Welcome to another episode of the MediaCast for the Funkit Pod here, where we look back into the last week to see what happened in the media, what's worth discussing, and, well, how can we make sense of it? One of the first things I would like to discuss is just going to be a brief one, is Jeff Bezos. He's stepping down from Amazon, not going to be the CEO much longer. And there are lots of speculations as to why is he doing it right now. Just when he got back the title of richest man in the known universe, he's stepping down. Why? So there are a few theories, conspiracy theories if you want to, that I found interesting to look into. One of them being he's afraid that the company will be split up via regulations, by regulations in the US, because they're coming closer and closer to being a monopoly, So there are rumors that the US government wants to split up Amazon, and Bezos says, my legacy should be untarnished. I'm going to leave with Amazon in its prime. And everything that happens after the split or whatnot then falls back into the new CEO, who then might run the ship, maybe not into the ground, but who will be responsible for splitting up Amazon as we know it. Interesting, I think. There could be something to it. Maybe ego also. Now that he got the spot of richest man in the world back, he's like, okay, I'm the richest right now. I made it. MFers, I'm out. Elon, see you later. So that he basically retires on top. So this could be another reason. Maybe it's an ego thing. Maybe he's just bored and he's like, okay, I've got so much money, whatever, man. I'm just tired of everybody complaining to me and talking about me all the time. I've got a hot new girlfriend. I just bought an island somewhere. I'm just making this up. Heading out to Richard Branson and enjoying life. Who knows? Another theory that I now just heard, which I find also interesting, is maybe he's preparing to run for president. So he wants to get rid of all his businesses and then just focus on becoming the presidential candidate down the road, maybe for a third party. That could be interesting, couldn't it? So I don't know if there's any merit to it, but just the idea would be very interesting. And as someone who's not in the US and who's not directly affected by this, I just would find it interesting to look and see what's going to happen. Is he going to do it? How is he going to run? Is he going to run for the Republican Party? Is he going to run for like a third party? Is he going to run without a party? What's going to happen? And how would people respond to it? Because, yeah, we all hate on Amazon somehow, right? But then again, I mean, if Trump gets support by lots of people for being a businessman, then just imagine what could happen to an actual businessman, right? Interesting. So very, very interesting here to see. First is that Bezos announced that he's out of Amazon. I'm sure he will maintain an advisor role or something like this, but he's not going to be the official CEO anymore, I believe. So this is interesting, and well, let's see if you figure out why. Maybe also just because there's a scandal coming up. Who knows? Yeah, so very interesting indeed. I'll try to figure out where to send my CV and let you know next week. Let me know what you think. Why Bezos is out of Amazon, and what do you think his motives might be? Okay, but now let's get down and talk a bit more media development. So there are two things that I've been asked to share my opinions on. Thank you for asking. So one is apparently Pinterest is testing a new story feature on top of the feeds. So why is it that every application now goes with the story feature, right? Good question, and we've seen this recently with Twitter also implementing fleets. Who needs fleets on Twitter? But the story feature is apparently what keeps us interested, engaged right now, right? So we're clicking through the stories rather than just scrolling through the feed. I think that's the simple reason. Everyone is realizing, okay, those stories, those disappearing things, those like instant sharing moments is something that works on social media, that's something that social media users are into. The urgency, it being immediate, right? It seems to be more personal, less edited. At least that's how it looks like. So I think that's just why we, and especially the younger audience, gravitates towards that. And that's now what Pinterest is saying, okay, that seems to work for Instagram. Maybe they see that it works for Twitter too via their insights, and then they say, okay, if it works for IG, if it works for Facebook, Twitter, TikTok is kind of only stories, right? So if it works for them, why shouldn't we be trying this as well? The way I use Pinterest, I don't see much use for it, but then again, I'm not the main target audience for Pinterest. I just use it to collect some ideas and so on, but that's about it. But if you're a heavy user and you spend lots of time on there, maybe that could make sense, right? So why not? I don't think that they will copy the story idea one-to-one from IG, Facebook, and the like. There might be different options to it. I haven't seen it on my Pinterest yet, to be honest. So I'm looking forward to this. I hope they would implement a few different features there that are unique to Pinterest. Then it could make sense. If it's just another copy of Fleets or IG stories, I'm also not seeing the benefit there yet. But who am I to judge? So the answer to why is it happening, I think that's the feature that is the most engaging, that shows the most engagement on all social media platforms. And that's why they also try to copy that approach. Okay, another question then was, apparently TikTok adds new warning labels to stop the spread of misinformation, which is a good thing. I think, right? Stopping the spread of misinformation is a good thing. The question is always is, and we discussed this in one of the first MediaCast videos, who is checking what's right, what's wrong? Who is deciding what is right information, what's wrong information? So that's always the thing. So if they can highlight who they work with and that they work together with whatever non-profit organization or whatnot that is checking the news for their correctness, could work. But then do you trust this organization, or will you say that's a liberal left-wing snowflake organization and we don't trust them? Snopes is, I know, run by Biden's son-in-law, whatever, making this up, right? But you see where I'm going. So yeah, cool, nice, okay, yeah, stop spreading misinformation. But how can we trust this? Maybe it's just censorship by the Chinese government. Ask Jimmy Kimmel. I'm saying this as a throwback to last week when we talked about GameSpot and so on. When Jimmy Kimmel actually then said on his Tonight Show monologue or Late Show or whatever the show is called, Jimmy Kimmel, whatever. And he was talking about GameSpot, and like some Redditors drove up the stock price, but maybe it's also just Russian bots. And you can see clearly where Jimmy Kimmel stands here. So yeah, he's dead to me now. This was just too much. But don't want to talk about canceling like certain people. It's just very disappointing to see that a late night host is that obviously sponsored by, the establishment in this case. So, but I mean, you see it, you realize it, you understand it, and then you just don't watch anymore, and that's how you let them know. Okay, but enough of this. So TikTok, misinformation, yes, cool that you try to stop it, but then again, can we trust it? Who's behind it? Does the Chinese government tell TikTok what is misinformation and whatnot? Who knows? Let me know your thoughts. All right, then the big topic of this week for me is censorship, because we've seen censorship now happening more and more. Again, it's 2021 and you would think freedom of speech is everywhere, but it's not. And in fact, even though social media is increasing and it's accessible everywhere and so on, blah, blah, we've talked about this and everyone knows that, censorship is still alive and kicking, and in some places more so than ever. For example, right now happening in Myanmar. Actually, as we speak, the news broke that Myanmar switched off the internet, for example, in Myanmar. So people in Myanmar, apparently, I haven't verified, but the news just broke, like when I turned on the camera, that the internet is switched off, cancelled in Myanmar. So there's a coup right now, a military coup, where the military arrested the elected leaders of the country, even though there's lots of controversy behind those elections and so on, but they now arrested those leaders and took control by themselves. That's not the first time that happens. They happened there many times before, just like here in Thailand. So there's nothing new, a coup in Myanmar. However, that is so blatantly happened was quite surprising. And but that they now switch off the internet is something interesting, because the first few days after the coup, everything seemed to be happening or going on just as normal, just with like more military presence in the streets. But that's about it. That's how coups are usually here in Southeast Asia. The military takes over, nothing much changes. It's just military everywhere. They're making sure no one steps out of line, but then that's it. But now in Myanmar, apparently there was a bigger movement starting against the military. And of course, they're also using social media. And lots of demonstrations happened over the past few days. And so now the military was like, okay, if you use social media to demonstrate, let's just switch it off. The first 2 days, they tried it via censorship, so censoring access to certain social networks. Twitter confirmed yesterday that they've been blocked in Myanmar. That's then when NordVPN, VPN not sponsored, but if you want to, feel free. That's when NordVPN stepped up and said, yeah, we have an emergency plan for things like this. So if you are in a country that suffers those restrictions, censorship, get in touch with us. You get like our VPN for free. Yeah, which is kind of cool. So that was nice. However, now apparently the military now just hit the switch and said, okay, no internet at all, which is a draconian move, I believe. So let's see for how long and where this goes, because obviously there are institutions that rely on the internet. It's not just people wanting to use Facebook or something like this. It's businesses needing access to the internet, right? And of course, maybe there's like some special laws or treatment there for businesses that need to do international business and so on. But it's going to be tough then to control, to maintain, right? So you can only use the internet for business and for nothing else. Like, if the military look over the shoulder over every email that you're sending, and if the email is not in Burmese, for example, in English, then gotta make sure that the guy looking over your shoulder with the machine gun really understands everything and is not just reading a few words and thinks you're betraying the country or something. So that's a very tough situation they're in right now. Also on a political level, and not a politician here or a political analyst, but lots of already sanctions happening. The US threatened sanctions. The EU did. A big Japanese beer producer brewery already canceled their collaboration with the Myanmar brand. So I think also the Japanese car manufacturers already moved out of Myanmar after the coup was happening. So there's lots of stuff happening right now. And from a media point of view, it's really interesting to see like how this continues. We've seen internet being shut down in other countries before when there was uproar and coups and so on, and when they tried to control the public. And this never really worked out. It works out for a few days, maybe, that it's like more quiet because people are shocked and like, oh, damn, what I'm going to do. But they will find a way. For example, if there is some kind of internet access, they will use VPNs. If there's not, they will use their mobile connections. They will use SMS and so on. They will send their friends and families in Thailand messages, and they will then send it to the world. We've seen this before during the Arab Spring, when countries try to shut down the internet, and it was way back when. It was like a long time ago. And now it's even more sophisticated. Communication methods, even if you shut down the internet is not everything. You don't always need an internet connection, for example, to find a way to send messages out into the world. And I'm sure that the friends in Myanmar will find ways to make their voices heard. It might be a bit more difficult, but this might just motivate them even more. They say, okay, you take away our freedom of speech, now we're going to fight you. And I assume that this is what's going to happen. There was apparently a soldier who sent some letters out of a base where he said they were kind of trapped. So they were not allowed to get out and get into civilian contact because the military wants to spin their own story, so to speak, about what's happening, and wants to make sure that the soldiers are all on the same page and don't listen to the civilians on the outside. And he wrote a letter and sent it to a journalist. Apparently, I'm not sure if it's real or not, but let's just assume for right now that it's real, where he said, again, the soldiers are not allowed any civilian contact, and B, that he thinks the one way to oppose what is happening right now is by grassroots movements, civilian unrest, and so on. So meaning shops shouldn't serve people who support the government. They shouldn't who support the military. They should not serve the military anymore. Hard to do, because if a soldier with a gun comes in, you're probably going to serve him. But that's what he said. He said, like, use social media to organize demonstrations and so on. Then again, maybe that's just what they want, because if you do this, then it's easier to pick you up and throw you in jail. So it's hard to say where it's at right now. Apparently the cyber, how do they call it? Not police, the cyber warfare is rather advanced in Myanmar, or at least what they are doing is rather advanced, and they're definitely thinking about this, like inciting violence as well. Also in the news that apparently plainclothes officers, what Alex Jones called agent provocateurs, are a real thing, and they are also, according to that soldier, they're trying to incite violence at night so that the military has a reason to step in and arrest people and shut everything down. So there you are. So this is very critical moment, and you can see from how fast I talk and like how kind of excited, that's the wrong word, not in a positive way, I am talking about this, because it's very close to home, of course. I have lots of friends in Myanmar, so people I worked with, lots of people I got to know and grown to like. So I'm worried here, and also, curious, also the wrong word, because it's not in a positive way, but we have to wait and see what's happening. I'm expecting there's going to be more uproar, and that people will find a way to raise their voices. And to the last political thing here in regards to Myanmar, it's difficult to explain, because it's not just like good or bad, right? So it's not like the previous government that won the election is like the good guys. It's not. Aung San Suu Kyi, while back then when she was like this political prisoner, everyone loved her, and then she came into power, everyone thought, okay, it's going to be awesome. But then, of course, she also royally effed up a lot of stuff, especially how she treated the Rohingya, and that she refused to say their names and so on. Yeah, no doubt about it. However, in many countries, she's still that figure that fights for freedom. And this could just be beneficial right now, even if many people in Myanmar don't agree with this anymore. In the West, Aung San Suu Kyi, for the people who don't know any better, is still like this representation for a better Myanmar. So if they see that she got arrested, they might actually increase the pressure. They're like, well, how can you arrest this Nobel Peace Prize winner from way back then, right? She changed, her mindset changed and so on, but that's just what I think still many Western countries think of. So maybe this just helps to increase the pressure. But again, we have to wait and see. All the neighbors of Myanmar here in Southeast Asia and within the ASEAN community, they all say, like, that's not our battle. That's something that happens inside the country. We don't F with that. So, well, let's wait and see. It's going to be a few interesting days and weeks ahead for Myanmar in terms of politics, also in terms of media development, media usage, and so on. Again, if there's internet available somehow, NordVPN offers VPNs for free for people in Myanmar. Okay, let's stick with the topic of censorship for a while. And there's also censorship in Russia. There's always censorship in Russia, but apparently the authorities are escalating right now the pressure on social networking sites to remove critical messages. If they don't do, they could also face being shut down, like getting warnings being shut down, and so on. The legislation gives the government apparently now more power to do this. Here you can see that censorship is also still alive, and it's being increased. So the authorities getting more and more power. Also the legislation changes in this regard, so that the authorities have more power to just simply block and shut down sites that they deem spreading misinformation or are just too critical. Again, freedom of speech, tough topic. And not the same, but a similar thing happens in India right now, where there are like farmer protests been happening for a long time now, and now it gathered more international acknowledgement with like people such as Greta Thunberg, for example, or Rihanna tweeting about it. And now social media sites are also being blocked or censored, so those accounts are not accessible, for example. And lots of pro-government protests actually showed how people were burning a picture of Greta Thunberg, for example, which is very radical, right? So the world's on fire. crazy what's happening right now, and you would think 2021 we are all like on the same page somehow, at least, with being able to see what's happening, with being able to access information and education and so on. But apparently we're not. So let me think what you think about this whole thing, the censorship, self-censorship, enforced self-censorship, and different social networks. And what do you think is gonna happen? What's gonna be next? How are we getting out of this? Like, are we getting out of this? Is censorship necessary, or should all the governments just say whatever, freedom of speech for everyone? On which side are you on? I'm not going to judge, of course. I'm just curious to hear opinions there. Okay. 2 more things before we finish here. This week's recap, so to speak. One more, and it's a kind of funny one, a bit of the lighter side of things. The ratings for basically all US-based news channels are dropping like crazy, like CNN minus 40% or something crazy. Same for MSNBC, and I like also Fox sees ratings drop. Why? Because Trump isn't there anymore. So no one cares about politics. Like Biden and Harris, yeah, you're doing your thing, but no one cares. No one expects something crazy. Everyone is like, yeah, they're going to do what they want to do, whatever. No one cares. No one's watching the news anymore. As they had those dedicated news shows that would just talk about Trump all the time. Some of them are getting canceled now. So that's kind of hilarious. So the left wing, the liberals, they got their wish. Trump is gone, but now also the ratings are gone. And for the right wing, we can see that apparently while they keep trashing the left, the interest is also not that big anymore. Interesting. So it's a lose-lose situation, which is kind of funny because those news stations are the ones that are trying to incite not violence, but divide the country. They're trying to divide people, right? Because that's good for clicks and views and so on. And now it's not working, which is nice. Maybe if you watch less of those news that try to divide the public, maybe that's a way to actually come together again. Let's hope. Okay, so then the last thing, at the end of those videos, I always explained a few things that I discussed in my media classes at university. And this week we talked about postmodernism, at least introduction, like a slow, very slow introduction to postmodernism. And there's a reason why I explained this, and I'm not on the Jordan Peterson side yet, so I'm not hating on postmodernism. I'm also not hating on Jordan Peterson. I actually will talk about Jordan Peterson's view of things as well, and then try to kind of like highlight those views, highlight the postmodern views, and then let students make their conclusions and argue for what they believe. But to do this first, we talked about postmodernism and what postmodernists think. And we talked about it for 3 hours, and it was just the intro. So now putting this into 5 minutes and at the end of this video is quite challenging. But the postmodern approach, view of the media, of things, is more like there's nothing that's right or wrong. Yeah. So if let's, for example, look into music. If I'm gonna ask you what's the best type of music, and you would say jazz or something. Jazz, like smooth jazz, is like very challenging to create, to play. So I think jazz must be the best kind of music. Or Mozart was like really skillful. That must be the best type of music. And I say, okay, I understand what you're saying, but I think Pitbull is the best producer ever, and I think Pitbull makes the best music ever. You can disagree with me. However, there's no correct answer. There's no right or wrong. And postmodernism, it all comes down to what we believe is right or wrong. So if I think Pitbull is the best musician that has ever lived, Mr. Worldwide, then I'm right. If you think that Mozart is the best musician that ever lived, then you're right too. But there's no value to any opinion. So your opinion is not of higher value than mine. Okay, so that's one of the approaches, thought processes in postmodernism. Also, it's highly related to how we see things, how we perceive things. So, for example, there's this approach, the theory of hyperreality, which is very much closely related to postmodernism. Meaning, the media that we see right now, like, just think back when your parents were watching the news, for example. The news were trying to show you what is actually happening out there in the world. Right? It was kind of like trying to hold a mirror to society. That's what we see in the textbooks, to let the society know what's going on. Now that's not the case anymore. What I said earlier, right? With the dropping viewership. Now the news, they don't just show you a mirror to show you what's happening. They distort the image. They show you what they want you to see. So while they show you news, they add their own spin to it, right? So that we don't really know what is wrong or what is right, what is real, what's fake. Yeah, there is something real, but there's also something fake to it. A super easy example would be reality TV shows or reality shows in general. Like, for example, the Kardashians, easy example to hate on, right? The Kardashians reality show. Is it? Like, how much of this is real? How much is scripted? We don't really know. That The Voice, The Masked Singer, all those things. Is it really reality TV shows? Do our votes really matter? Or did they decide already before who's going to the final and who's going to win? So, and then this reflects to us how we understand something, because we then choose maybe to believe that it's real. We believe that the Kardashians is real. We believe that The Voice is real. That's why we actually call or text and vote. And this reflects on how we see things. Yeah, so if you see Instagram influencers, for example, do you think their lives are always awesome and they're always chat setting around on like cool yachts and so on? Probably not. But we don't think about it. We just see all those pictures and we think, oh my God, it's so awesome. They have a great life. I don't have a great life. That's kind of cool what they're doing. Yeah, so, and then we believe that this is the reality. And then it becomes real to us. Even though it might not be actual reality, it's real for us because we see it like this and we believe it. And so what we see is reality for us. Not what is real is reality for us, but what we see in the media is reality to us. And that's how media then distorts society, influences society. So it's not the mirror. We don't see what's actually happening. We see what they want us to see and we believe it. And that's why it's reality for us. And that's why this is then called either simulated reality or hyper reality. There are many more facets to this, but I'm going to just say one more thing that influences the way we see and the world via media and the way we use media. And this is then called the society of the spectacle. It's an approach from like way back then, but it applies now more than ever, especially during the pandemic. And you will see what I mean. So the society of the spectacle is a theory that explains why we as an audience are consuming media by people who do stuff and then we don't end up doing anything. It means, it comes kind of from the word spectacular, right? So I'm watching something that I think is cool, but then I don't do it by myself. Maybe because I'm too afraid. I don't have the money. I can't do it. I'm too far away. I can't travel right now. Whatever. I watch someone else do it. I think, oh yeah, that's cool. That's similar to me doing it by myself. Nice. That looked cool. Yeah, okay. I've seen it. And then I'm happy. Let me give you two examples. One would be you're watching the Travel Channel or Google Earth for that matter. You're flying through the Grand Canyon. Then you're like, okay, cool. I've seen the Grand Canyon. I don't need to go there. Yeah, that's one form of the spectacle. Second would be you're watching someone doing cool stuff, like a celebrity, for example. Like one example that happened here in Thailand with a guy called DJ Matum, and lots of people, especially younger ones, that are a bit more liberal, a bit more educated in terms of media, they're hating on it, what happened. But many people, they don't. And let me explain what happened. So he's a DJ, influencer kind of guy, actor, I believe. And he's, of course, famous on social media. So then he threw a huge birthday party during the pandemic right now. Then lots of people caught COVID on there. After that, he went to gyms, still spreading COVID even more. His staff got COVID. So they call it a super spreader party. And then after this came out, then of course many people criticized him, but just as many people were applauding him, like, oh my God, it's so cool that you can still party, and I'm so jealous, I would do the same thing. So you can see that's also spectacle. It means I'm watching celebrities doing something, even if it's, stupid, and think, oh my God, that's so cool, I want to do this too. And that's also the spectacle. And that's one of the reasons why influencers still work. Not because we necessarily believe them, but because we are like, I'm looking at this and I want this for myself. I want this too. And that's then what is in media theory called the society of the spectacle. So our society likes to look at the spectacle because we can't do it by ourselves. We don't have the cojones to do it. We don't have the money to do it, abilities or whatnot. So we watch others doing it. Those crazy parties, for example. Not caring about the law, not caring about the guidelines, whatever. Spreading COVID. And then also the way we look at those people, we only see their Instagram stuff. We don't see what's actually happening with them. That this guy actually suffers maybe from COVID, that he's really sick and feeling bad. We just see, hey, cool, he threw those parties, it's all cool, nice, people forgive him. And then this is reality for us. Even though it might not be real, the real reality, it's the hyper reality that the media shows us and we believe it. And to wrap things up, again, in the end, the approach of postmodernism is you decide what you believe is right or wrong. So there's no ultimate answer to what's right or wrong, to what's better. You decide. Pitbull is the best musician ever, for example. All right. I think that's enough of the intro to postmodernism for now. If you want more, join my class. I also will take another side where I'm not just explaining postmodernism, but then also agree with Jordan Peterson, for example, for a bit, where he hates on postmodernism and says we need to get rid of the idea of postmodernism because there's also something to it, of course. And then we will try to compare those sides and see what actually makes sense. All right. That's it for this week. If you want to know anything in particular, shout out. Let me know what you want to talk about. I'll try to answer questions and add topics and explain topics that you're interested in. Other than that, I hope my friends in Myanmar, even though you probably can't see this right now or hear this, you're safe. I hope everything turns out okay-ish at least. And everybody else, also please take care. And I hope to see and talk to you next week.